You were on the cover of Cosmo, which has got to be kind of cool. But
Very cool.
Then I noticed that they put, it's a very nice picture of you, but they put all of these headlines around you that don't have anything to do with you, but it's kind of upsetting.
It's
the time he wants you most.
Our guest is granddaughter to one of the most iconic and powerful newspaper publishers of all time. Yet she is taking her family's empire on by calling one of their bestsellers, Cosmopolitan magazine, nothing more than porn. She is a vocal element in the Cosmo Harms Minors movement. Welcome Victoria Hearst to MidPoint. Victoria, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Victoria, what was that flashpoint, that indicator, that one moment where you said, this has got to stop and what I'm looking at is nothing but porn?
Well, it's kind of interesting. Let me just say quickly that I am a born-again Christian. I have a Christian ministry in Colorado called Praise Him Ministries. I got saved in December of 1995. And, you know, our company has had this magazine, Cosmopolitan, for a very long time. As a matter of fact, it was first published in 1886 by a company here in the United States, and then my grandfather bought it in 1905. And it was always a family magazine, literary, society, women's magazine. And then in 1965, the circulation had gone way down. And so the company was very concerned. Since it was my grandfather's first magazine, they didn't really want it to just go by the wayside. So unfortunately, I believe you remember a woman called Helen Gurley Brown who had written a book called Sex and the Single Girl, and the whole feminist sexual revolution. So the Hearst Corporation decided, aha, we'll save the magazine by hiring Helen. And that was in 1965. What Helen did for the first couple months was she had nude male centerfolds. Burt Reynolds was the first. She turned a family magazine, a very classy magazine, into a sex rag.
But when did it get to you, though, Victoria? When did it speak to you that you actually looked at the front cover of the magazine and said, that's it?
Yeah. I just said, you know what, about 15 years ago, we all get copies of the magazine, and I saw a cover model who was a lovely brunette, and she was completely naked but for a strategically placed boa constrictor. And my stomach just turned over, and I thought, what the heck is my family doing? This is too much. So
now that was 15 years ago, correct?
Yes,
okay,
and then I contacted the company. I contacted two female psychologists, one Christian, one non-Christian, got their professional opinion, and sent all this information to the board of directors of the Hearst Corporation. They never responded. They never did anything. So I just felt in my heart to leave it alone, and then it got a lot worse. And then about 2-3 years ago, I was watching a Christian broadcasting network, and there was a young woman named Nicole Weeder who had an anti-Cosmo campaign. I hooked up with her, and then she had a child and dropped out. So I've continued it. And the wonderful thing is last year I hooked up with the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, because I know my subject, but I needed somebody who really knew how to get out and do the campaign and do what we're doing now.
Okay, then is that the bigger point here, Victoria? Because I've only got about a minute left before we take a break and come back. But are you then saying that the biggest issue that bothers you here is sexual exploitation, even though some people, quite frankly, I got to be honest, will look at this magazine and go, yeah, it says sex, but it's really kind of tame in light of what many people think pornography is?
Oh, no. It's what it says on the cover. And Ed, I don't know what kind of words I can use on your show, but the covers are very sexually graphic, and the content is even more so. Cosmo advertises itself
Are we
as
talking
a
about
sex
definitions
magazine.
of pornography then on the front page? Is that what you're looking at here? Because, look, we can use certain words here, but I mean, no four-letter words, but I mean, if you want, are we talking about graphic here? I mean, I've even mentioned them. Some of them say, how many sex positions can you settle your man with, or can you satisfy your man with?
Yeah, I mean, the latest one with Hillary Duff, the April issue with Hillary Duff on it has an article, and it blares on the cover that says, you know, 63 different ways to get your best orgasm. And the latest one with Madonna says sex, 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 just in case you didn't know what they were about.
Okay, but let me ask you this. I've only got a few seconds before we take a break.
They have very graphic articles, sex Q&As. They have drawings of men and women in sexual positions.
Okay, well, hang on one sec, because
women,
we've got to take a break here, but I do want to ask you a question.
Okay.
I'll even let you sit on this for a moment here, because what you've just shown us is absolutely in the magazine, but I'm going to ask you when we come back why those words are pornographic. So if you would please stand by, we'll come back and do that. We're back after the break with Victoria Hearst, and some more reality about the state of publishing media material that may or may not harm minors. But let's also see if we can get down to it, who is really to blame here, and why are these things, if they're pornographic, still sitting on supermarket shelves? We'll do that and more when MidPoint continues. All right, let's get back to the conversation now that will affect just about everybody one way or another. Welcome back, Victoria Hearst, once again to MidPoint. Victoria, I mentioned pornography a moment ago. Now, the Webster's Dictionary pornography definition states movies, pictures, magazines, etc. that show or describe naked people or sex in a very open and direct way in order to cause sexual excitement. There's no naked people on the front cover of Cosmopolitan magazine, so people will look at this and say, what makes what there is being said on the front cover pornography and not just titillation?
What's being said on the front cover is an introduction to what's inside the magazine, which is much, much worse. Yes, Cosmo is showing drawings of naked people having sex.
Not on the front cover of the magazine, though, Victoria.
Narratives.
Not on the front cover.
Well, okay, so you think it's okay to say orgasm and sex?
I didn't say that. I'm asking you what you
and all
think
that
and
stuff
why you're
on the
attacking
cover?
this. No, I didn't say that. I'm asking you why that's pornographic,
Okay.
then, if it says that in definition of pornography.
Because what it's doing, in addition to the very sexual models, is, first of all, the laws in most states say that that kind of a cover is inappropriate for minors to see. So it's not supposed to be where minors can see that stuff.
Okay,
and secondly, what happens is
I'd like to go
it's
ahead
a
and answer
come
you on
on.
that. I'd like to answer you on that because and you made this comment, I quote you here, on the magazine. It contains graphic adult sexual material that under most states' material harmful to minors laws is deemed pornographic. Under these laws, it is illegal for stores to sell Cosmo to minors. We looked in a lot of the statutes. We looked in Florida, we looked in Louisiana. We could not find anything that defines what pornography is in these states, number one. It's very, very vague. They're talking about magazines, books, covers knowingly exhibit such books that depict material harmful to minors. So the question here is, why do you think that this is harmful to minors?
Because first of all, the experts, psychiatrists, counselors, pediatricians, etc., say that it's harmful to minors. To have them have an early exposure to this kind of sexual graphic displays and narratives. That's a given. You have Playboy magazine and Penthouse, which are bagged, okay? And this is what we're asking actually the Hearst Corporation to do. And if they won't do it, then we're going to have to go to sheriffs and district attorneys and attorney generals. But these are, and this is the backs of them, Playboy and Penthouse. They are in plastic wrappers. They are up high on shelves according to the law where kids can't get to them.
Okay, but
so
you
what
will
we're
agree that
asking,
Playboy
first of
and
all,
Penthouse, though, have inside their magazines, they have full frontal nudity when Cosmopolitan does not, correct?
Cosmopolitan has drawings of men and women having sex. They have explicit narratives of sexual behavior. That is pornography according to all these laws. I don't know what you read, but according to the laws, pornography of material inappropriate for minors are graphic descriptions of sexual behavior.
Okay, then
that
let
are
me do this.
deemed by any reasonable adult.
Let
me finish. Deemed by any reasonable adult to be inappropriate for minors.
Okay, then I'm going to agree with you on that. Let's say that the front cover of what is on Cosmo right now is indeed detrimental to minors. If it is detrimental, if according to you it is against most states' material harmful to minors laws, why isn't there somebody then walking into these stores and taking them off the shelves or arresting the people who are trying to sell them? Because would they then not be in violation of the law?
Yes, the stores are in violation of the law. The problem is not only do the stores not know about these laws, but with some meetings I've had in the past is even, unfortunately, the politicians and even some of the Attorney General's office reps are not familiar with the laws. I've had to show them the law and say, look, this is your law, and you need to abide by it. So that's why, see, that none of us would have to be doing this if the Hearst Corporation, which publishes the magazine, would take responsibility for what they print, and just like Playboy and Penthouse, bag it, label it adult material, and make sure it's not sold to minors.
Okay, then let me ask this then, because you're right.
That are labeled not good for kids.
Let's give you that you're right then.
You have machinery that children aren't supposed to use.
I've only got about a minute left. Let's say that you're right then. About a minute left. What has the Hearst Corporation's response been to you? And then what have they said about then bagging them and making them, as you have indicated then, out of the range of children, or at least to make it a little bit safer for them? What have they said?
Okay, they got two responses. One is none, and the other response is, this magazine is a wonderful women's magazine and it's the best-selling magazine in the world, and then they hide behind the First Amendment and they say, quote, and we have the First Amendment right to publish and display the magazine, unquote. Well, according to these laws, they do not have the right to display it where children can see it. And I have the laws, and you and I don't have time, obviously, to go through this. But you're going to have to take my word for it, and anybody who's interested, just Google your state's material harmful to minors laws, and this stuff will come up.
We'd like to have you back again to continue this, even though we're out of time. You're right, I'd like that. But very briefly, I only have 10 seconds left. Do you receive any monies from the Hearst Corporation anymore? Are you banking any checks from them?
I have my inheritance, and the Bible says that the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the just. I can use my inheritance to fight my company's publication.
Okay,
and
fine.
Anyone who wants to call that hypocrisy is just plain wrong.
We wanted to make sure that we got your side of it. Victoria Hearst, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure we'll do this again. MidPoint will continue.